There are moments when everything seems to collapse. Opportunities vanish, plans unravel, and the harder you try, the more resistance you face. You begin to ask yourself, why isn't anything working? What am I doing wrong? But here's the truth no one tells you. The universe is not denying you, it's preparing you. And preparation often looks like silence, like confusion, like nothing is happening. This is not a sign of failure. It is a sacred pause, a divine alignment between what you say you want and what your mind is actually prepared to receive. You can dream of abundance all day, but if your dominant thoughts are rooted in fear, self-doubt, or lack, then what you're really broadcasting to the universe is resistance. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think manifestation is about asking. But Napoleon Hill taught us something far more powerful. Manifestation is about alignment. You don't get what you wish for. You get what you are in harmony with. So if your life feels stuck right now, if you're trying and nothing moves, this message is for you. Because until your thoughts, your emotions, and your expectations move in the same direction, the universe will not deliver. It's not because you're being punished, it's because you're being refined. And the moment you shift internally, the moment your mind and spirit say the same thing, reality bends. What you were chasing finds you. What you were waiting for arrives. Because the universe doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to clarity. And clarity begins in the mind. Napoleon Hill never spoke of manifestation the way it's casually presented today, with wish lists, trendy affirmations, and feel-good visual boards. His teachings went deeper. They revealed a science of thought, rooted in spiritual consciousness and divine order. Hill said it plainly, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But most people misunderstand what it truly means to conceive and believe. To conceive is not just to wish. It is to see it so clearly in your mind that your subconscious cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. It is to repeat that image so consistently, with such emotion, that it becomes the only truth your inner world responds to. But belief, that's where most people fall short. To believe in Hill's framework is to live as if it already is. To think, speak, act, walk, and even wait as someone who has already received. But most people live in a constant vibration of waiting. They ask for abundance, but vibrate scarcity. They pray for love, but live in fear of rejection. They long for freedom, but wake up each day trapped by doubt. This is where desire becomes sabotage. Hill taught that belief only takes root when it's emotionalized. Repetition without emotion is empty. Words without inner agreement are powerless. Your heart must feel what your mind affirms. Only then does the subconscious accept the command. Only then does the universe respond. When that alignment finally occurs, something sacred shifts. Your energy changes. Your identity upgrades. You stop asking. You start embodying. You stop begging the universe and start walking as if you signed a divine contract long ago, and now it's simply being fulfilled. This is the mind that receives, because this is the mind that already is. And it's here that we begin to understand the deeper meaning behind I shall not want. There is a paradox woven into every law of success. The more you chase, the more it runs. The more you beg, the more it hides. The more noise you make, the less you hear. Napoleon Hill understood this paradox. Though he spoke of desire and faith with passion, he also warned against over-efforting, against forcing the outcome or trying to make things happen by sheer will. Because manifestation is not about control, it's about coherence. Once the mind is aligned, once thought, belief, and identity are vibrating in harmony, the next step is stillness. Not passive laziness, but conscious, faithful non-resistance. This is when you stop touching the soil every hour to see if the seed is growing. You water it. You let the sun in. But you no longer doubt the process. Most people interrupt their own miracles with anxiety. They affirm in the morning and doubt by lunchtime. They visualize for 5 minutes and then spend the rest of the day complaining. They say they trust but keep checking for proof, as if God works on demand. Hill warned, faith removes limitations. but fear reinstalls them every time you second guess. This is why silence is powerful. It creates a space where the divine can flow unimpeded, where your subconscious can do its work without being suffocated by doubt, where universal law, having received your vibration, begins to orchestrate reality in your favor. And if you truly believe it is done, you stop asking. You stop repeating the same question like the answer didn't already come. You stop seeking validation from others. You stop needing signs. Instead, you move through the world with a quiet conviction. You speak less. You observe more. You create in peace and receive without noise. This is when the shift happens, not because you forced the outcome, but because you became the version of you who no longer needs to, the version that already carries it, that already deserves it, that already walks in the fulfillment of it. There comes a moment in every journey toward manifestation when logic is no longer enough. You've visualized, you've planned, you've aligned your thoughts. And yet, silence, not absence, silence. This is the holy space where most give up, where the ego screams, it's not working, but the soul whispers, it already has. Napoleon Hill never spoke of faith as an accessory. He spoke of it as the bridge between the invisible and the material, between the thought and the form, between the mind that desires and the divine that delivers. But here's what most forget. True faith isn't loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to convince itself. True faith is quiet, still. Anchored. Hill said, faith is the head chemist of the mind. And in silence, that alchemy begins. Because when you truly trust, you surrender the how. You no longer obsess over the timeline. You don't beg for miracles, you prepare for them. You don't plead for proof and you align your posture. This is not passive waiting. This is active alignment. You keep your energy clean. You keep your heart expectant. You keep your steps congruent with what you say you believe. And here's the secret the world won't tell you. God only delivers what you're truly ready to hold, not what you ask for out of lack, but what you embody through wholeness. When your identity matches the blessing, it arrives. When your silence echoes certainty, it moves. When your spirit stops grasping, it receives. You see, delay is not denial. Delay is preparation. It is the divine reshaping your inner world so you don't sabotage what you've been asking for. It is heaven protecting you from a premature yes. And so the ones who receive are not the loudest, are not the most desperate, are not the most talented. They are the most aligned, the most surrendered, the most ready. They live not in resistance, but in rhythm, in tune with divine timing, in sync with their highest self, in obedience to the truth that you do not chase what is already yours. There is a moment, and it never comes with trumpets or applause, when everything begins to shift. It doesn't look like what you expected. It doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives, quietly, like morning light through a half-open window, like a deep breath after years of emotional suffocation, like an unexpected yes from a universe you thought had forgotten you. But it didn't forget. It was waiting for you to stop fighting what was already written, for you to become what you've been asking for. You see, Napoleon Hill didn't preach fantasy. He spoke of definiteness of purpose, of the law of cause and effect, and of the quiet power of belief aligned with action. And when belief aligns with action, when inner silence replaces inner struggle, when you no longer just wish, but walk as if it's done, that's when things move. Not because you forced it, but because you finally became it. This is the invisible moment every success story shares, the turning point no one saw, the quiet victory before the visible reward. It's when discipline meets divinity, when your inner world no longer contradicts your desires, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions harmonize like a chord played in tune. And suddenly, doors open that logic can't explain. Connections happen that seem divinely scripted. Resources arrive when you no longer calculate their source. Clarity flows where once there was confusion. But here's the paradox. The world will think it happened overnight. They won't see the nights you doubted but didn't give up. They won't hear the prayers you whispered with a breaking voice. They won't feel the moments when faith was your only currency. But heaven saw, and heaven responds not to noise, but to vibration, not to effort alone, but to energy. And when your energy says, I am ready, the universe whispers, now. Now you rise. Now you walk through the door. Now you become the evidence that alignment is stronger than effort. Now you are living proof that nothing is missing when the mind is right. If you've listened this far, it's because something in you remembers, not from your mind, but from your spirit. You remember that before the pressure, the debt, the chaos, there was a dream, there was peace, there was a version of you that knew who you were and who you were meant to become. That version is not gone. It's waiting. And the path back to it is not loud, flashy, or public. It is quiet. It is disciplined. It is sacred. Napoleon Hill taught us this truth with relentless clarity. What you impress on your mind becomes your external world. But it's not enough to read it. You must live it. You must prove it in your silence. So let today be the day you stop searching outward and begin vibrating inward. Let today be the moment when you decide. You will no longer ask if you're worthy. You will no longer wait for permission. You will no longer delay the vision. From this moment forward, you walk as if it's already done. You speak from the frequency of completion. You act from the soil of certainty. You live in alignment, not anxiety. Because the truth is, the universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are, and who you are is already equipped. So I leave you now with this question, not for your mind, but for your soul. What would your life look like if you fully trusted the invisible? Let that answer guide your next step. If this message reached a part of you you've long ignored, if you felt seen, remembered, or awakened, then write this in the comments as your declaration of alignment. I live as if it's already mine. Not to convince anyone, not to manifest faster, but to honor the truth, that when the mind aligns, nothing is missing.